Nvidia's new GTX 1660 Ti. Is this the new 1060? Lenovo's Legion Y7000p. One last 1060 powered gaming laptop. More tools to sync files. And your Battlestations are awesome. And it's all coming up on TekThing. Thank you, patrons. Without your support via patreon.com/TekThing, we wouldn't be able to make the show for you each and every week. Join the crew that makes TekThing possible at patreon.com/TekThing. Thanks.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm singing Clash tunes before the show. I'm Patrick Norton.
Yes, he is.
Oh my goodness.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show, and that definitely was not it.
No, and me singing is even worse. But you know what is useful this week?
What?
1660 Ti, new sub $300 GPU from Nvidia. We got Sebastian Peak on to talk about its performance. Friday last week, Nvidia announced their latest GPU, the GTX 1660 Ti. It's kind of a first cousin to the RTX 2060 without the fancy DLSS or RTX ray tracing. I'm excited. Joining us to talk performance, and hey, if this is the new 1060, Sebastian Peak, editor-in-chief, PCPer.com. How are you, sir?
I am good. How are you doing, Patrick?
Energetic, excited.
Yeah, you sound it.
You know, well, this is. We were talking on Twitch and This Week in Computer Hardware when the RTX 2060 comes out, and everybody's like, "This is supposed to be a $249 card," roar, and pitchforks and mayhem and anger, and now we have a $279 card that's like 50% faster than the GTX 1060. So is this the new 1060?
I feel like it is, but when you're just comparing prices, I mean, we could make the argument that 249, that card has been out for almost 2 years now.
Right.
Talking about the 1060, so yeah, with inflation, yeah, this could be the direct successor. Although, everybody always wants that next generation of cards to come out and to be, twice as fast and half as much money, and that's just not realistic. And honestly, Nvidia has not been feeling a whole lot of pressure from AMD, especially in the mid-range segment for a long time. So it could very well be this is exactly that. It is the 1060 replacement. It's more specifically the 1060 6GB replacement, because there were a couple of versions of the 1060. Of course, we know that there was a difference in the video RAM. One had 3, one had 6, different OEM variants with different core counts, that sort of thing. But essentially, the 1660 Ti takes over. And like you said, about 50% better performance. That's at the high end. Nvidia had told us when we were briefed on this that it was up to 1.5x the performance. So, and it is. Like I had at least a couple of different games where it was almost exactly 50% faster, and overall 25-30% faster.
Nice.
So,
no RTX, no DLSS, which I would be upset about if we didn't see the RTX 2060 running at like 720p to get decent gaming frame rates. And there's still less than 5 games that do RTX?
Oh, yeah. Yes. If you take away the Port Royal benchmark, you've got Battlefield, the new Metro Exodus game. Those are the higher profile titles that have been advertised. I think there's one more that I'm forgetting. But yeah, very few games actually support this. And it really feels kind of like a glimpse at the future, but not necessarily this generation.
Right.
Like you said, like DLSS, and we've talked about this numerous times now on Twitch. It's essentially rendering at a lower resolution and then using the AI, using the deep learning to output at a higher resolution, which is how you get that performance boost. It's not magic. The only way to boost the performance with ray tracing in real time is to do it at a lower resolution, unfortunately, because the hardware just is not there, especially in this sort of mid-range. And I think that was one of the things that sort of complicated the RTX 2060 launch, because that card, you mentioned at the top, this is a new GPU. This is the TU116. TU116 is a very different GPU than TU106, which was the basis of the RTX 2060 and the RTX 2070. It's a massive reduction in size, and we went from 445 millimeters squared to, I think it's 284 millimeters squared with this one. So it's a significantly smaller die. And even so, I mean, if you're comparing this to the 1060, the 1060, even at a higher process node at 16 nanometers, was only a 200 millimeter squared part. And these are both 120 watt parts. So in almost 2 years, they've dropped the process down to 12 nanometers, yet the die is bigger and it's consuming as much power to give you that, up to 50% boost. So I think the Turing architecture, it's interesting how it was designed apparently, from the outset with ray tracing in mind. And when you don't have the Turing cores, like the RT cores and the tensor cores, it does reduce the die size as we saw, but it's still not quite down to the level of the 1060, even though it is a bit smaller than the 1070, which is a card that this actually goes right, head to head with and actually matches or even beats the performance of.
So when we're looking at performance, one of the things I think of with non-RTX or DLSS performance or tensor cores is good old-fashioned CUDA cores.
Right.
I think it's 1,536 on the 1660 Ti. So about a quarter or maybe 3/4 of the cores on the 2060?
Yeah, 2060 was 1920, and then the older 1060 was only 1280. So you have the edge in cores over the 1060, and it's close enough to the 2060. And it's interesting because the 2060 is a 6 gigabyte card. Both that and the 1660 Ti are using the same memory interface. They're both GDDR6, 192-bit interface. Yet the 1660 has less overall bandwidth available, at least out of the box, because the memory is clocked lower. And just as an aside, I found that very interesting looking at this. Like, this is the same memory, the same interface. I wonder if maybe they just clocked it down to help with sort of product segmentation. And sure enough, kind of poking around the internet at day one reviews, I was seeing the same thing that I had seen, is you can clock this right back up to the 2060 speed of 14 gigabit per second, whereas this one comes as 12. So just bump it up, and it runs completely stable at the same memory speed. So it narrows the gap so much that this becomes, it's like a 2060 minus or a 1660 Ti plus.
Not to spoil, but we should also point out this card overclocks well. You mentioned like the GTX 1070, the 1660 Ti is roughly 1070 performance. Does that extra 2 gigabytes of matter, does the extra 2 gigabytes of memory actually matter on cards that are primarily for 1080p or 1440 gaming?
I don't think so. No. I mean, you'd be hard pressed without using one of those full screen anti-aliasing methods, like the super sampling that you can do. It's hard to, on a 1080p monitor, I don't even know how it would be possible to max out a 6 gigabyte frame buffer. I'm sure somebody will prove me wrong, but for the most part, you're living at around 3 gigabytes of frame buffer at 1080, and even with ultra detail settings, I don't think you're even approaching 6 at that resolution. You can certainly make an argument for greater than 6 gigabytes when you're at 1440 with ultra settings, but that's not something that this card is going to really do. This is a very good 1080 Ultra option that can do 1440 at up to high settings, but really the kind of texture quality, the kind of resolutions you'd have to push to exceed 6 gigabytes is really out of the range of what this GPU should be doing anyway.
So RTX 2060s, that's the 1440p Ultra card. Plus it does RTX, plus it does DLSS. Those are selling for like $349 and up. GTX 1660 Ti's are selling for like $280 and up. Old school GTX 1060s are selling anywhere from $210 to $250, depending on if a manufacturer is dropping the price and trying to dump cards. Should anybody still be buying a 1060 at this point?
I'm going to say no. And there's two reasons for that. One, and I was looking before I got on here at Newegg, and the lowest cost of any 1060 with 6 gigabytes of memory is $200. And that's with the price drop. So like you're saying, like you're living in that 210, 220 and up range for a card that's almost 2 years old at this point. And with this 1660 Ti coming out at 279, and we have to expect there will be more coming, but I'm jumping the gun a little bit here. But I just no, just do not buy a 1060.
It's dead to us.
Yeah, I've moved on.
So this is a 1660 Ti, not a 1660. Do you expect a sort of straight 1660 to come?
It has to. I mean, there are already rumors out there, and if you go to any of the usual channels like videocards.com and stuff, you can see reports. DigiTimes did a report, I think it was last night, that they're naming it, they're giving you a release date, all that kind of stuff, which is pretty close. We're talking mid-March as a possibility based on the rumors. So it seems inevitable, and all we have to do is look at history, because there's been there was a 960, and going back to like Maxwell, when the 750 Ti, that was like a go-to card for upgrading your system. It didn't even require external power, and that's that interesting conversation you can have when you get down to these lower price points, because they're also lower power draw. And that was a notable thing about this launch. It requires an 8-pin power connector, which that segues nicely whenever we start talking about overclocking here with this card, but it's something that a mainstream card usually does not have that requirement. You're talking a 6-pin as your mainstream power draw. So that's got to be next. And whether that's a variant of the same TU-116 core or they have something else up their sleeve, I don't know. But you know it has to be coming, and probably sooner than later.
Sebastian, thank you so much for making the time for us.
No problem.
For all Sebastian's benchmark on the 1660 Ti, and to find out what happens when you overclock it, get yourself over to PCPer.com. Good stuff there, people. Go check it out.
I love budget gaming laptops.
True.
They're one of my favorite things to review on the show, because honestly, we don't see them enough.
Well, they're one of those things, right? A lot of companies build specific products for places like Amazon or Costco or Walmart, where they're like, we're going to build this to a price point. And a couple years ago, they started being like, that's actually where all the growth in gaming laptops is, and they're somewhere around or under $1,000.
Yeah.
Lenovo's been doing a lot in this area. They've also sort of adulted up the gaming laptop world. Sophisticatedized it.
They honestly have.
Sophisticated language.
I kind of like that description, actually.
Sophisticatedized it.
So this one is one of those. This is going to be sold on Amazon, at Walmart, at Costco, and stuff like that. And that is the new Lenovo Legion Y7000p. So this one costs, it's a range. It starts at about $1,000 and then goes up from there. The one that I specifically have, you'll find over here on Amazon. Currently it says it's available through third parties, but it's about $1,250. It's about $1,250. This one comes with an 8th gen Intel Core i7. It's the 8750H CPU. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. Nice. It's also got an Nvidia GeForce GTX 1060 graphics in here, of course, Max Q. And there's 256 gigs SSD in here for the operating system. It comes with Windows 10, and there's a 1 terabyte hard disk drive for data storage too.
Oh, good.
Now there are a few other models, as I mentioned, which you can find over on Amazon. So if you check those out, you have a few different options, like this one that comes with a 128 gig SSD. There's another one on here. That one comes with a little less RAM, from under $1,000. So you have lots of options. This does have upgradable bays on the bottom of it too, which is wonderful.
All of this series.
Yeah, which is wonderful. So you can increase the storage size if you want to, which is great. But yeah, you can get it at Costco currently. They have a deal going on there with a free Call of Duty Black Ops 4 digital download code, which you can get until the end of April, that Lenovo let us know about. So I definitely wanted to throw that in there in case you're looking for Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Might be a good deal for you. It's got Bluetooth, Wi-Fi AC, new slimmer and subtler design. Like you mentioned, they definitely increased the maturity aspect of the laptop, I would say. It looks good. I like it. It's a pretty Legion. So the chassis has an aluminum top cover. That's what you see here with the little plus on the back. It's got a nice soft touch interior too for your palm rest, which is great. I really like the soft touch design. And then the bottom is plastic. So they went with aluminum and plastic.
Are the giant vents for speakers or for the cooling system?
I wish the speakers were that big. Then I'd be like, these are the best audio ever. No, those are fans. The ventilation and the thermals, they have been reconfigured in the new generation of Legions, not just this version, but all of the new Legions, to give it better cooling. You can see the vents on the back and the bottom, and there's also nice little rubber feet for the bottom too, which keep it lifted up just a little bit so it doesn't cover up those vents whenever you have it sitting down.
This is a good thing.
Yes, it's definitely a good thing. The fans are also larger, and you can kind of see them in the video that I got for y'all. This helps with noise, and it definitely does help. It does run pretty quietly when I was doing 3D Mark tests, as well as when I was playing Shadow the Tomb Raider too. And I was quite surprised that it didn't sound like a jet plane when I was playing Shadow the Tomb Raider. And I was playing on high settings, so I was pretty surprised about that.
When you start gaming or rendering with your primary laptop, there's always that
I know. And that one costs like hundreds of dollars more, so it's kind of
also
surprising.
Thinner.
That's true.
So
that's
they made
true.
it, maybe it's amazing because if you can open up the space, the air has to come through, the noise gets less.
Yeah.
But it comes as there's a price to pay.
There is a price to pay. Now you may be wondering how heavy it is since I've been holding it this whole time. It's 5.1 pounds. Yes, so it is a little bit heavier than my older Razer Blade or my newer Alienware M15, both of which again are also more expensive. This one does pack in all of the ports that you could ever want. There's a USB 3.1, there's a headphone jack on the one side. On the back there's 2 more USB slots, one of which is USB-C, which is wonderful. There's a mini DisplayPort 1.4, HDMI 2.0, Ethernet, yay. There's a DC in, of course, to power the laptop. You need that. Kensington lock. There's also USB 3.1 on the other side, and a Novo button, which is Lenovo's one-key recovery program in case like you bork your machine. You can repair it with that little button right there, which is super handy. It's also got 52.5 watt-hour battery built in, which gives you about 6 hours of usage time, and that's pretty good for a gaming laptop. And when I say usage time, I mean playing video games, getting online, watching Netflix, all that kind of stuff. You get about 6 hours, which is really good.
Well, gaming should be taxing it a lot more than, say, watching Netflix.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I wasn't playing for 6 hours straight. I was using this for other things too, like writing my show notes and stuff like that.
I thought you said you gamed for 6 hours. I'm like,
I wish
that's
I was.
amazing.
That would be wonderful. But no, if you were gaming on this, it would probably drop it down to like 4 hours or so. That would be my estimation.
A cross-country flight with the plugs under the seats.
Oh my gosh, those are the best airliners ever. When you get the plugs in the seat, it's great. The screen on this is a 15.6 inch. It's full HD, 1920 by 1080. It's IPS display, which is great. It's got great viewing angles, gets decently bright. And this is kind of cool. When you turn it down with the little brightness button on the keyboard, it turns it completely down. So it looks like it's off, but it's just turning the screen brightness down to off. The computer is not actually off. Like it's not locked or anything. So keep that in mind. I think it was kind of cool though, because that would probably like save battery if you just want to turn down the screen.
And let it do something in the background.
Or just let it do something in the background. Exactly. The thin bezels on the screen, those look very, very pretty. But of course, since they are so thin, that means the webcam is set on the bottom in the middle, which you probably are not going to be very excited about.
Woo, nostril cam.
Yay, it's got nostril cam. Gaming on the GTX 1060 does mean that I notice a little bit of screen tearing, but FPS averaged around 60 FPS in Shadow the Tomb Raider, which is the game that I prefer to test with, and that's on high settings. If I do turn those down to medium or something, which is probably a lot better for a 1060, I'm not going to notice that screen tearing, which is wonderful. 3D Mark averaged on Firestrike around 5314, which is lower than my 2017 Razer Blade with the same GPU and an older CPU and the same RAM. Time Spy averaged around 3975, which was actually better than the older Lenovo Legion Y530, which makes sense. And it was also better than the 2017 Razer Blade. So good on you, Lenovo. Very, very nice. The audio is pretty good. Lenovo used Harman Kardon speakers with Dolby Audio, and those are on the front, right underneath the palm rest. And you can see 2 different little entry points right there. So sounds pretty good, especially since it's not covered up whenever you sit it down on a table.
It's not blasting into the table.
Yeah, it's not blasting into the table. And I like the keyboard too. It's 1.7 millimeters of key travel. It's backlit with 3 different brightness settings, which you can see here. I had no trouble using the keyboard for like writing and playing video games. I do like how the the arrow keys are shifted over underneath the number pad, which I was like, oh, that's really intuitive design. I like that. And I also like that there is a number pad as well, which is always wonderful on these 15-inch laptops. I love that. Now, I like this machine. It works very, very well. I love the improvements to the design. The updated specs are wonderful on it. Within a few weeks, though, I'm also going to be reviewing the new Lenovo Legion Y740 as well. Now, that one comes with 20 series Nvidia graphics, so I'm very, very curious how that one's going to compare with this one as far as gaming is concerned, since most of the other specs are basically the same. So I would love to get your opinion on this laptop in the comments below, or if I didn't answer a question about it, because I know you might have some, definitely let me know. I spent lots of time with this little baby, playing lots. I completed so many missions in Shadow of the Tomb Raider. You won't even believe it, but it was great. It was very fun to play on. Email me, ask@tekthing.com. I would love to tell you about my gaming experiences on the Lenovo Legion. It's a very cute, nice laptop. I like it.
We love your questions, your tips, and your suggestions of products and ideas to check out. There are so many of you, and you're looking at a lot of cool stuff. Tell us about it. Tell us what has you excited. Tweet at TekThing, at Snubs, or at Patrick Norton, or just email. Shannon was telling you about that. Ask@TekThing.com. And a big shout out to our patrons at patreon.com/TekThing. You pay the bills, you make the show possible. Our thanks to you. Join the crew that makes TekThing happen at patreon.com/TekThing. Turkey's in the house. I was going to do a demo of using Resilio Sync to keep files synced across multiple machines.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like Dropbox, right? But without third-party storage, which I love. And if you've never heard of Resilio Sync, it is based on, well, it is. So there's BitTorrent, then BitTorrent started a tool to synchronize files called BitTorrent Sync. Then they spun off that company, and they're called Resilio. And apparently, I shut down the machine I set up the demo on at home because it's online pound. There's a lesson there. But you know, Resilio is interesting because I'm playing around with the free version. There's some paid versions that I haven't toyed with yet, but I'm toying with as we speak. And then, of course, as soon as I rewrote the script to reflect the fact that it wasn't on, apparently somebody plugged it back in, whatever got unplugged at the house, and it's going back to syncing again. But it's syncing much, much slower than it should be, because I've got like 50 to 100 megabits up at home, and we've got gigabit fiber here. So I'll get back to you. But generally speaking, there are lots of ways to synchronize files automatically without using Dropbox, because I'm kind of on the warpath with Dropbox, because it complicates my life more than I think is necessary.
Dropbox definitely does. I can speak to those headaches as well and those nightmares. They're very enjoyable. We also got an alternative from Will, who says, "Hi Patrick and Shannon, I have been using Karen's Replicator for many years. If you haven't come across it before, it's one of a suite of tools created by Karen Kenworthy. Karen sadly died in 2011, but her software lives on and is regularly updated. Replicator is incredibly configurable, so the SyncToy problem of syncing deletes is easily avoidable. It also does scheduled syncs. You can find Replicator over at karenware.com." And he linked us to the site. This is what it looks like over here, and you can see that it has been very recently updated, which is always wonderful to see, especially when you're downloading things that are supposed to be copying your files. You want to make sure that they are definitely up to date.
So like that one from Microsoft called SyncToy we talked about last week,
exactly.
which hasn't been updated since 2009.
So people have some great recommendations. I was like super excited about these, so I'm definitely going to switch over to something else. He also mentioned that this one is free to use, but the devs also accept donations. So if you want to support them with their work, you totally can. And you can also buy a license for work that is $25, and that includes all of the Karenware tools as well. So great option.
One of the things I like about Resilio is you can set it up so that if it does go to remove files from your drive, it kind of puts them someplace rather than completely erasing them.
So smart.
Yeah, well, you know.
Duplication.
It's
Yay.
We also want to give thanks to everybody who mentioned FreeFileSync, which I'll talk about this a little bit more after I get my Resilio box behaving the way it used to behave. FreeFileSync, open source software available for Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. It is free, it is open source, and look, they just had an update on that on February 10th, 2019. So
Yay!
Cross-platform. I like cross-platform products.
Cross-platform is definitely useful. So let us know if you would like to see an in-depth review of any of those options going forward. We would love to show them to you on the show. You can tweet us both at TekThing or at Snubs and at Patrick Norton.
Thank you.
Last week we asked for you to send us your Battlestation photos, and OMG, did y'all come through on that request? Seriously, we got so many emails with people's pictures of their desks, so I'll show you a few. I'll show you some more next week. The first one is from Robert.
This could become a regular segment.
You know, it could, honestly. I mean, this gives me so much inspiration for my own desk at home. I love looking at people's Battlestations. So we could make this into a thing.
Or
let us know.
Desks.
Let us know if you want to see computer desks as a reoccurring segment. Not every week, but reoccurring segment. So the first one is from Robert, who sent us his 1980s era cubicle in a library basement, of all places. So fascinating. And it looks like he's running some very old operating system on there.
It looks like he's running a standardized tool for administrating a library that hasn't been updated.
Yeah, exactly.
The interface hasn't been updated.
It looks like the same interface that used to be run on a bank computer that I used to work on at a bank.
If it works, don't fix it.
This one's from Bill. He said, Patrick and Shannon, this is a picture of a computer desk I designed and built in the early 1980s. It's solid oak and very heavy. It was a time before the internet and all the cabling that goes along with it. At the time, I had an original IBM PC and an Epson MX80 dot matrix printer. The bookcase is removable. It's beautiful. And this one is from Jim. He says, we have an antique Queen Anne style desk with a laptop that is almost as old, but it does Skype, looks up recipes, etc. No, it is not our only machine. There are several other machines and many monitors, plus a primary and backup NAS in the house. Of course, also offsite backup.
Yes.
Good man, good man. Yes, I am maybe paranoid, but I had a drive failure on an IBM AT. I don't even want to think about 5 1/4 inch floppy failures from an IBM XT. For backup and sync up, I use Microsoft Robust Copy, aka RoboCopy. It is complex. The documentation is like 80 pages, but it can do it all. I learned it managing servers in the early 90s from Jim. And that's the closed version of the desk.
Oh, nice.
Great thumb right here, by the way, in your photo. Wonderfully done. And this one is really, really nice. So John built a custom desk out of iron pipes for legs along with a nice heavy wood, and it's at a fixed standing height with a chair that is tall enough so that he can sit and stand on it without having to move the desk up and down.
It's amazing what you can do with block iron pipe.
Really cool. Yeah, and I love the industrialized look. Like, it looks amazing. This one is also adorable. This last one that I have a photo that was sent to us of is Alex's Battlestation. So he didn't send us a long winding email, but he did send us a great photo of his Battlestation. Great flags.
And toys. I see toys on the bookshelf.
So many toys. This kind of reminds me actually of my computer room, so I definitely love it. And we did have one
Canadian,
last one.
And he uses certain products.
He is definitely Canadian. He uses certain products. This last one is from our very good friend, Glitch. So Glitch sent this one over via Twitter, and he said, at TekThing at Snubs at Patrick Norton, still working on getting everything set up, but this is mine. And I love that you're playing TekThing in the background. That's great. But I love your chair. It's so organized. And look at all the Hack 5 products over here. We got a Wi-Fi pineapple. And we got a Hack 5 pack. Man.
He can hear all the things. And
3D printers. So cool.
And power supplies in the back
corner. So cool. I love it.
So many power supplies.
So we do have a lot more Battlestation photos. So yeah, I think I'll show them off like maybe next week and the week after that. I don't know. So if you do have pictures of your computer desks and your organization for your awesome machines, let me see them. They're really, really cool to check out. Send them in. Yes. I'll show them to you next week.
Ask@tekthing.com. Put my Battlestation or my computer desk in the subject line.
There you go.
A big thank you to Hack 5 for the studio space. And if you haven't been there, go to hack5.org. Check out the Security and Privacy podcasts. They also have some particularly amazing pen testing tools. I'm a huge fan of that critter right there, the USB rubber ducky, which is sold in the USA. And if you haven't checked it out and you're thinking about stepping up your pen testing game, your security game, learn about Cloud C2, remote pen testing made easy. Deploy and manage fleets of Hack 5 gear from a simple cloud dashboard. It's cheap, and it's amazing, and you owe it to yourself to check it out because it makes all the Hack5 products work together.
Yay!
Remotely, as they should.
Thank you, Hack5. So wonderful. And last but not least, of course, remember, put down your phone, step away from your screen, close your laptop, and do something analog. Go outside, hang out with friends, or find a group to cosplay with, like I did last weekend. And you will notice, if I zoom in right here, that's me with blonde hair. What's going on?
Are those all doctors, or is that a doctor and several other people?
This is all doctors, and then you have a Kablam worker over here, and you have Graham, which is one of the companions from the newest season. Don't worry, no spoilers.
I love how everybody got the same T-shirt. That's kind of awe-inspiring and terrifying.
Well, it's because like there's one licensed Doctor Who coat, and everyone bought like their uniforms from the same place, obviously. My wig's a little frumpy, but hey, it worked. It was very, very fun, and it was very cool and very inclusive.
This was at Gallifrey 1?
Gallifrey 1, yes.
The con for people who love the Doctor.
Yeah, that's it. Gallifrey 1, the largest Doctor Who convention as far as I know. So very, very cool place to go with other Doctor Who fans. Whovians.
Whovians.
So cool. Thank you so much for watching.
Oh my goodness. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
See you next week on TekThing. Still haven't seen episode 1. I've never gotten through an entire episode of Doctor Who. Email us, ask@tekthing.com. Tell us which episode I should start with.
Blink.
Blink.
Do you agree? Let me know if you agree. Blink is a good episode. I mean, every episode that has, you know, the Blink things happening. I would probably not watch an episode with the, what are they called? Exterminate. Why do I forget the name? It starts with a D. Exterminate Doctor Who. Hold on. What's it called? Dalek! That's what it is.
Oh
Dalek. That was like the other weekend. I was hanging out at dinner with my friend, and we were trying to remember the name of one of the like bad guy characters in Star Trek, and both of us were sitting there going, oh, what is that race called? What is it called? Oh, I forget. Oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden she goes, boom, Klingons! And she yells it halfway across the restaurant. So everybody turns around to us and they're just like, Klingons? What is going on? And we're just like two ladies drinking wine, and then all of a sudden she's just like, Klingons!